Hello and welcome again to the Voice Spotlight. Tonight we have someone that might not be a stranger to you if you are a member of VLF and or have followed our services. Um, Tonight we have Lisa Parker, who just a few short weeks ago, we're recording on March the 31st, but for me and her, it's a few short weeks ago, she brought the word to VLF. So first of all, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good as well. So, for those who may not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am a native of Baltimore, from East Baltimore. Grew up at North and Wolf. So for those that are familiar with the East Side, went to educated through Baltimore City Public Schools, graduated from Western High School, went to BCCC, Baltimore City Community College, got my associate's degree in public administration. From there, went to University of Baltimore and got my bachelor's in public administration with a concentration on community development. And from there, went to Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, got my master's in human services with a concentration on human development and program development. Have been an outreach worker for an organization called Sisters Together and Reaching. It's a faith-based nonprofit. Work with like health and wellness, and graduated to the Baltimore City Health Department. Worked for about 13, 14 years before I went to work for the federal government at SAMHSA in the Office of Behavioral Health Equity. My tenure was cut short there once the administration changed. But in all of that, have always just had a heart for the community. That's how my business got started, Epiphany Coaching and Training, with my business partner, one of my good girlfriends, Cicely Franklin, who is the CEO of One Village Coaching and Ministries, which we're here now.
And that's good. I had the opportunity to formally meet her because she has been to VLF, but I had the opportunity to formally meet her during a grant writing class that was just this past Saturday. So, which brings us to here and Epiphany Coaching. I know um, a lot about your background, have you being at VLF on a couple of occasions, and uh, then I learned about. I don't know if I knew Epiphany Coaching at the time, but I knew that you had or provided resources for folks. So, as I stated, I attended a grant writing workshop. Or the worship we
We
worship
were
and workshop, same thing. But is that the bread and butter, so to speak, of Epiphany Coaching, or are there some other resources that Epiphany Coaching provides?
We provide other services, but that seems to be the one. That's the one that actually helped us grow in the way that we have. We are in our fifth year of operation, and
Congratulations.
no matter how much I try to retire the grant writing workshop, it's always when are you going to do another one? When are you guys going to do another? We need to know about, is it going to be a part two? So I have tried to retire it a few times, and the community just won't let us do it. But we do provide behavioral health workshops around mental health and trauma. We provide faith based workshops specifically around personal growth and development. We also do, I'm a grief coach. Cicely is a men and families advocate, and she also does life coaching. So we provide a variety of services, a variety of specialized trainings. But the grant writing workshop is the one that everybody always reaches out, always has questions, always asks when we're going to do the next one.
So you actually touched on something that was in my head. So I attended this grant writing workshop. Um, is there a part two to it, or is it if I were cloudy on some areas that I should have just attend the next one. So is it a part two or is it just a repeat of or a clarification of what we went over on Saturday?
So I think I probably am going to have to develop a part two, and I will probably make it more around grants management because that seems to be the space that after we get through the actual writing, because the conversation gets so rich and the questions are so good, we don't necessarily spend the time around research. I know we talked about alignment, but just to kind of put the nail on the head with the aligning your program with the actual funding that you're looking for and proper grants management, and also procurement for individuals that may be seeking contracts through the city, through the state, that might be interested in federal contracts, understanding the procurement process and why it's important again to make sure you understand how to properly operate and manage funding.
Okay, so this was the first time I heard about grant management,
Mhm.
um, which will lead into another question. So I'm trying to think, should I ask this question and then maybe come back to grant management? Let me ask this question because it might go hand in hand.
Okay.
Okay, so prior to the class, there are a couple reasons that I wanted to speak with you. We just started a nonprofit, Sandy Johnson's Have a Heart to Help. And within the church itself, there are a lot of small businesses popping up. So grants is a word you hear. Grants might be something that you think you understand. I'm going to say that because that's from my own personal, that I thought I understand. So my question was that I thought up while we were talking about why is there so much mystique to grants and grant writing?
I will say, just from working in the field, because it can be very intimidating. And because, as I shared in the workshop, typically when you're looking at grants, you're looking at the big four, which is the federal government, but the big four agencies are SAMHSA, HRSA, NIH, or the National Institute of Health, and CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And I think for folks that don't necessarily deal with grants on a regular basis, so many things you hear about writing, you see the price that grant writers can charge or consultants will charge. You think about it always being attached to the Baltimore City Health Department or Johns Hopkins, or you think of it attached to research. You don't necessarily think about it as a means to fund a community based program. And a lot of people don't recognize, especially in the faith community, which is something that I'm learning because a lot of churches are reaching out, that a church or a faith based organization is typically considered a nonprofit organization or has a 501c3 tax status, which qualifies them to apply for funding. And there's grant funding specific for faith based, for church renovation. So I think it's the misunderstanding that grants are these big, mysterious, complicated things. And my goal, as I share in the workshop, is to help everybody understand that if I can get it, you can get it. It's just breaking it down into simple pieces.
And that's going to be one of my questions too. So you touched on during the worship. Here we go again.
It's worship. We just gonna call it worship.
We touched on the in the workshop that there are people that are out there that think it is free money.
Mhm.
So for those people that might be thinking it's free money and or it is a means to a end sort of a hustle, maybe. I don't want to use that term. And
No.
I was surprised when I did my taxes this year that one of the questions is what is your side hustle? And it was built in the tax act. But for those people that think the grants are free money, can you explain to them why it isn't?
It is not, because anytime you're getting money from an outside entity, there's some expectation that either you're going to pay it back or you have to be accountable for it. Grants are typically funds generated by the federal government, sometimes, in most cases, to address specific issues that are happening in the community and society. A lot of times, again, if you actually take the time to go through reading the grant, you will see you don't have to pay it back, but you do have to operate. You do have to be in compliance with certain things to keep that money, but also to be able to get additional funds. And when you're not in compliance, the payback is either, the feds will come in, they may do an audit, they may look at your books, they may look at your pay ledgers. They're going to have questions that you're going to have to answer. If you're in compliance, typically it's annual reports or quarterly reports. You may have site visits that you have to abide by. So it's not necessarily free money that you can get and go and do whatever you want with. There's always an attachment or some expectation from the funder that you are going to be able to tell a story to support why they gave you the money. And a lot of times, I think people hear the word grant, and because it is, just in us that's free money. I always go back to the PPP loans during COVID, reminding folks that that started out as, a no payback loan, that started out as money that didn't have any attachment to it. You could just say you had a business and you could get a $50,000, $60,000 loan. The administration changed, and 3 4 years in, people had to account for that money. That's when the feds were like, yeah, show us your books. What did you do with that $50,000? And a lot of people got caught up. A lot of people ended up having to pay that money back, or in some cases, they had to do some jail time because they were not in compliance and mismanaged that money. So that's why I always try to say, don't ever look at a grant as free money. If you think about when you apply for grants to go to school, you're making the promise that you are going to take this money that the federal government or the Department of Education is giving you, you're going to use it towards your education, getting that degree. You're going to use it to pay for your books. You're going to use it to pay for whatever your lab fees are. You're going to use it to pay for your classes. But again, there's that, but I get a refund check, and you go and you buy a car, you buy a house, or you do whatever you do with it. And that's where it's free, but it's remembering that once you cross the stage and you get that diploma, in about 6 months, the Department of Education is going to say, remember that grant money I gave you? I need you to pay it back. So that's why I try to help my community understand it's good money, but it's not free money. And as a nonprofit, as a 501c3, that should not be your only source of funding. Your funding should be diversified.
Okay. So, um, we're in a different age because of a lot of things, but I think we've entered into, for some folks, the I can do it.
Mhm.
So I think now I've seen more authors spring up than ever before with the resources of either self-publishing or publishing with not being with a big company and publishing at a lower fee for doing the publishing and packaging the book and such. So I say that to say that at the same time, there are a lot of businesses that are being birthed for various reasons. Some people definitely want to be out there and have their own business. Some people want to be out there and help others. So this question, I don't know if it is vague or maybe too broad, but does every, to you, does every business warrant applying for a grant? Is that too broad?
No, it's not.
Okay.
And the answer to that is no, because again, it's about, as a consultant and a grant writer, my goal is to make sure your business aligns with what funding is possible. And it's to help you grow a portfolio so that again, you're not just relying on this one pot of money, but you can see that you can grow your business organically by providing services, by working directly with the community, by developing partnerships and collaboration, or looking at contracts, or looking at foundation funding. So every business that comes about, and again, I think it's because with grants, we think these large dollar amounts where we don't necessarily recognize that if you are for a church, if you're doing a kids summer camp, that you can write an in-kind letter to a Chick-fil-A or Popeyes, and they will donate food for the summer. That you can write a letter to Walmart asking for contributions for the back to school drive, and they will give gift cards, or they'll give you discounts for the backpacks and the school supplies. So I think it's that the grant money is a fast way to get a lot of money, and that you can use that lot of money and you can quit your job and you can make have a salary. And again, that's where it's to understand that there's compliance and there are requirements when you're using that money. And if you truly read the grant, it'll tell you what you can and can't do with it.
Right. So, again, and one of the fellow students from Saturday, this was my way of giving back to the class that was held on Saturday, but I uh, answered or remarked on one of the fellow students in the class because I have to say that I came away from the class feeling better about grants as a whole. The possibility, and I'll say possibility now because I haven't done one, but the possibility, but some of the gray areas, the clouds moved out the way, and I see them. Um, I think I understand, but there are different components, different sections to a grant. And as a grant reviewer, which you are, um, what is for the people that are thinking about grants and hopefully looking at this, they'll understand whether the company that they've created or that they've had for time will go for a grant if warranted. But in the different components of a grant, and you as a grant reviewer and grant writer, what is the most important component of a grant?
Wow, that's a big question. I want to say telling a easy to understand and read story, but also giving and making sure that in that story you're given a clear explanation of why you're doing the work that you're doing, and who you're serving. So painting a picture, as I shared in the class Saturday, as a grant reviewer, I don't know your business. I don't know the community you're working in. I'm just considered an expert in whatever the area. If it's a behavioral health grant, if it's a substance use grant, if it's an opiate fentanyl related grant, because of the regular work that I do, because of academia, I would be considered an expert having some knowledge around those areas. So
Gotcha.
that's why I would be reviewing that grant.
Mhm.
As a reviewer, for me, if you can paint a picture and I can see you doing the work, or I can understand who you're serving and why you're serving, your narrative helps me to connect with you. And it helps me to understand why, okay, I get why they're providing services, because this community is overly impacted by homelessness, or this community is overly impacted by food deserts. So I get it and I understand it. So telling a full, real picture of the work that you do, but also explaining how this is going to have an impact. Like, how is this, how, if you get this money, how is it going to change somebody's life, or how is it going to make the situation in your community different or better? What are the steps that you're going to take? So, being able to tell a clear, concise, easy to understand story, which would be the narrative, for me, is a critical piece.
So AI is out there. It's out there. And though I was surprised, I wasn't surprised that it is being used for grant writing.
Yes.
Um, um, I think I could tell if it were coming from the mind and the thoughts and the passion of somebody else. Um, but, and we know that it is being used. So,
Mhm.
as a grant reviewer, writer, when you have that feel that it is AI, I guess you can smooth it out or polish maybe with AI, but does that throw up a red flag when AI may be where you can feel it is not that person talking? And as a reader and being an ex-federal government supervisor, not just an employee, but supervisor, I think I could read something and say, they're not into this. This is something else. So where does that fall to a reviewer?
Um, so one, I don't ever want it to seem like I have a love-hate relationship with AI. For me, AI is a good resource tool. It's almost like if you think about if you drive your car somewhere, if you decide to walk. If it's a few blocks, you can probably walk, no big deal. It's not going to take anything from you. It's going to be better for you. But then there may be days that you like, I just don't feel like it. So you get in your car, you get the keys, you start the car up, and you point the car in the direction that you want to go. And that's how that's how I would like for people, especially around grant writing, to use AI and artificial intelligence. You have to have a concept. You have to be able to think through the questions and read them. And for a reviewer, you can tell the difference between you actually had contact with these people and you actually did that work, because I can see it in the way that you're talking about it. It's a certain tone to human writing versus artificial intelligence. Not to mention, again, if it's a competitive grant, the same way you sat down and you plugged in your computer and you plugged those questions in, and AI generated a response for you, there are 50 other agencies doing the same thing. And no matter, and you can tweak and you can, kind of play with and clean up what AI gives back to you. But 90% of the time it's just giving you stock answers, or it's responding just based off of trigger words, for lack of a better term. And
Mhm.
it's going to generate a response based off of those specific trigger words. And my cautionary tale is, if you do it, what makes you think three other people aren't doing the exact same thing? Because it's quicker, you get it done faster, you don't have to pay anybody to do it. You can just plug in, and what would take, a grant writer, me, or if you decide what might take us 2, 3 weeks to do, you can sit down for maybe an hour, plug all the questions in, and AI has responded for you. Um, and again, it has its good and its bad, but honestly, the last three grants that I've worked on, there was verbiage around not having a completely AI generated or chat GPT generated application. That people do have software, funders do have software where they can run it through, and the AI, I
Mhm.
don't know if they have special tags on how you when you cut and paste, but they have software where they can kind of tag like, yeah, this much of this is not human writing, this is artificial intelligence, and it lowers your grade on your application. So again, AI is a great resource tool. If you need to do graphs, if you want to even do your budget, if you're not strong in creating a budget, then yeah, utilize that as a tool, but for the actual writing, for the evaluation, for the narrative, for telling the story of your agency, there's never going to be anything that's going to be as compelling and impactful as a human story, telling a story about the humans that they work with and actually giving a human feel to the community that's being served.
Right. So you touched on the grading of how that's done, and we're not going to go into it here for the interest of time, because we spent what from 10 to 3,
Yes.
and it still didn't feel like it was enough time. Um, but I will say on to what we were just talking about is, and I don't tell me, don't let, I won't tell you how I know, but it's syntax. Computers do a certain way of saying things. Mine just woke up when I said that. Um, it's a certain way of because it's taking available minutia and putting it in and doing what you want it to do, but there's no emotional attachment to it. You had asked that each of us in the class touch base with 2 people, and I did. And the passion when the young lady who will be, I'm hoping will do a spotlight with me, the passion that was in her when she was talking about her business, and that's what you can hear in her voice. And I'm thinking and knowing that once she starts writing rants, that it's going to come out in the writing.
Yeah.
So I had a question. We really, though we created Have a Heart to Help in 24, we started to do things in 25. And the reason that I attended the grant writing class is because I want to get and push it forward. But I had a question, and I think I know, again, I think I know what the answer was. And I thought about it on the drive home. So I put in for a grant with Procter and Gamble.
Mhm.
And for whatever reason, during that season that they are doing the granting, say of 2026, I'm denied. Does that preclude me from putting in a grant with Procter and Gamble in 2027? Is that one, is that denial forever and ever, amen, or is that denial for that searching period? I think we
That
did touch on it during the class, but yeah, let's go with that one.
that denial is just for that round of funding. If you and as I share all the time, and I do in personal life, if a grant is not, first of all, grant writing, you're never gonna be 100%. No matter how amazing you think you wrote, no matter how compelling you think the story is that you told, there may be somebody else that just did a little bit better in some other section that caused you maybe to miss out by 2 or 3 points. But understand that's just for that round of funding. You can always reapply, you can always go back, and I encourage everyone, if you get denied, you, in most cases, I will say most cases, you can write back and you can say, hey, thank you for the consideration. If I wanted to resubmit this grant or for future reference, can you tell me, were there areas that I could have been a bit stronger? What were some of the things that, made us not one of the top candidates, one of the chosen candidates for funding? And in most cases, funders are very kind and saying, your evaluation plan, if you had just increased this by a little bit, or we really didn't connect with the first part of the paragraph, or where we asked for your sustainability plan, we weren't really clear. It was a little too wordy for us. So they will tell you a lot of times what you can clean up. And for me, it's always learn from what didn't work and go back, make those corrections so that even if you don't use that application, you have a good foundation that if you just need to do something quick that you can go in and you can kind of edit and you can tweak it a little bit so that you can use it for another opportunity.
Okay. So, we talked about getting the grant and applying for the grant. So, nonprofit and company, they put in for the grant for whatever however they did it. Hopefully, they had somebody to assist them, or they attended a class like your own and they did it. So, we talked about accountability and compliance. So, and we're coming toward we actually, I told you we were flying through these questions because at the end of the day, we can talk here, but I truly, truly believe if someone is in this area, they should reach out to you and Cecily to um, attend the class, get that broad because we're doing in minutes what we did in hours. And like I said, even in the hours, it was not enough time. And on a Saturday, downtown parking and all of that. But I thought it was well worth it. And at the end of the day, I really wish it was, maybe a sequential class. But
Yeah.
someone, a nonprofit company, they're granted, they have a grant approved. Even as approved, you say once they approved, it still may be some time before that money is dispensed to you or dispersed or disseminate to you. Um, so we got the money. What's next? What do we have? What do we tell people? Okay, you got the money. This is what is expected of you.
So once you get the money, that's when you really have to develop a relationship with your funder. Typically, once you're awarded your contract or the funds are released, they will give you documentation. They will let you know that, if there's a grant monitor, Lisa's going to be a grant monitor. Within the next 30 days, she's going to set up a site visit where I would come out, sit down with you, review your application, get to know your staff, maybe even get to see you do some of the work so I have a better understanding of if you come back and say we ran into some snags, I have a better understanding of okay, well, the community that they're working in is a hard to reach community, so we need to figure out what some best practices are, or if I need to adjust your budget a certain way so that you can give out incentives that actually meet the daily needs of the people that you're serving. So you can typically expect to have start that working relationship with the funder. You will be made aware if there are any reporting requirements, what kind of data is being expected. You'll know when reports are due. Again, if there's going to be a site visit, you'll start to schedule those things. If they're asking you to, look for partnerships, develop memorandums of understanding. Typically, after the funding, that's when those pieces need to start. With some funding, they'll say the first 6 months are just you making sure everything is in place, making sure you have staff in place, making sure you have an auditor ready to do an audit, making sure that your systems are in place to track how money is being spent, how the reports are going to be distributed, how information is going to be back and forth between you and the funder. And they may say after that period, then maybe 8 to 6 months later, you'll actually do implementation. So during that startup time, you'll be developing an implementation plan. You'll identify who your target population is. You may do focus groups. You may set up workshops. You may, again, develop partnerships. You'll start to have your staff trained. So really after the funding, that's when you're really starting to put what you put on paper. Now you're going to start to make it happen in real life and in real time.
Good. So, one of the things, and I must just go back because we're almost done. I'm gonna go back a little bit because I've talked to, some individuals and say it's a $500,000 grant, and I'm thinking. for maybe the size of your LLC, LLP, nonprofit, um, it's not that's not going to be the award. That's where your research comes in because you have to find out of that $500,000, there is going to be language to tell you how many places it's going to go.
Right.
And we talked about one that it was 21 starting, but two were already allotted, and
Right.
then it's 19. Um, but I don't know if they knew it wasn't 500,000 or they tried to get a buy-in by saying it that much because you're saying if I buy in with this, I'm gonna get a big chunk. That they have to do their research as well on the the components of the grant,
Hmm.
the stipulations and the guidelines of the grant. So I guess the question, no, my question is, um, before you try to take that big half a piece of pie, that maybe you should take a little bit of nibble, that take baby steps as you're working up and working through. Because if you don't know what to do with $25, you're not going to know what to do with $25,000, correct?
Yes, and that can hurt you in the long run, especially when you're thinking about federal funding and even working with Baltimore City, working with the state, like working with local government. And that's a perfect analogy. If you really have never had $500,000 and you struggle just taking care of the $20 that's yours, then 500,000 is not realistic, and that's where I talk about alignment. If it's just you and one other person that's doing all the work for your nonprofit, for your faith base, or for your startup program, realistically, as wonderful as a $500,000 grant would be, realistically, can you manage a $500,000 grant? Do you have the accounting and the auditing and the procurement systems in place to be able to account for every dollar of that 500,000? And it's also being mindful that the award may say, the application may say 500,000, but if you read, and I always say, for me, I read from back to front because all the details are truly in the back of the grant. It's going to tell you that this award is $500,000 across 30 states. We will be awarding 15 we will give out 15 awards of $150,000 to 15 organizations. And as we saw on Saturday, they may have the caveat that 3 of these awards are going to be set aside for historically black colleges, or going to be set aside for tribal or Native American communities. So instead of it being 15 awards, it's actually 12 awards.
Right,
Of those 12 awards, it's not going to be 500,000. Each agency might get a maximum of $150,000, or they may get $100,000. So it's important, one, to not get caught on that big number. And also, if you're new to it, my suggestion is build that portfolio. Look at community grants. Look at the Xfinity grants. Work with some of the banks. A lot of the banks give out community grants. $500 is more than what you started with.
exactly.
Take that 500, manage that well, and grow your track record. And the more that you do the work, the more that you learn how to manage, the more that you understand what the process is. When those bigger grants come out, you'll know what you need to have in place, and you'll understand the importance of not just getting the money, but actually using it the right way. And so you don't get yourself caught in a trick bag.
Right. And when you were what you just said, and then in Saturday, like I said, I used to be, a federal employee, and though it's not a grant, it's budget,
Mhm.
and I had a multi-million dollar budget, and my group alone had multi-million dollar budget, so I had a good team. So, so, we did get in places and saying, hey, we got X amount of dollars left. We have to get rid of this
Yeah.
because they're either going to cut our budget next year, or if we now know what we're looking at next year, if we don't get rid of this to show them that we know what we're doing, we're
And
not going to
ask
get
for
that
the
X amount.
increase. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, so I got a little nostalgic there. So, um, last question actually. In a nutshell, what do you tell anyone that is considering applying for a grant?
Um, just read. Just read, but also make sure you ask questions. They're typically pre-conference, pre-award webinars. There's typically video, especially with the feds. They have webinars online or videos that you can go to that will walk you through, like, this is what this funding is, this is why it came about, these are the specific areas that this funding is going to be used for, and they'll walk you through what the grading process is, they'll walk you through what you can and can't do, but make sure you take the time to do your due diligence to understand what you're applying for. um, One of the things that is most unfortunate is a lot of times, again, people get caught up on it's $500,000, and they mistake that that's what they're going to get, and then when they don't get it, it's like, well, the grant said 500,000. The grant said 500,000 across XYZ, and
Right,
that XYZ TUNV was taken out of it. So this is why. And they told you what your cap was, and they told you what you can do with it. So I would say just read, just don't be afraid to develop communication with whoever the funder is, ask questions, and don't be afraid to try. Take a chance. Again, I would never lie and say 100% of the grants that I've written have been funded. Don't be discouraged, but learn from the what did not go well with this process. And also just make sure whatever you're applying for, you can really do it. So don't just get the money for the sake of getting money, but make sure it's something that you can actually implement with the people or the program around you. Because again, making a mistake, giving back money, becoming an agency that's in the news for mismanaging funds can be detrimental long term.
right,
So just again, read, make sure you're ready for the responsibility, but don't be afraid to put yourself out there and try.
right. Because I'm feeling like even though I've gone to the class, even though I know what I think we're trying to accomplish, but I think now, because I'm not the grant writer that you are, that other people are, that maybe form a cohesive team
Oh,
to approach it
absolutely.
together and move it forward. You were talking about during the class, if you want to put somebody in their place and you just send that email out there with all that verbiage. One of my mentors with the government, it was really weird because her husband moved, she moved, and I moved. And it was that way for almost 10 years. So when he got a position, she got a position, I was like, I'm gonna get a position. And it mostly happened. But she told me that when somebody does that, you write that email and just let it sit. You come back a little bit, right? Change some of that. Don't send it. Come back and change it a little bit more. Make your point. Be firm, but take all of that, if you can, take that anger out of there and put fact in there
Yeah,
and straight fact because they can't argue with that. So I said that was the last question, but it's not.
that's
One
good.
question. Um, I know why, and I know how I felt, but why should someone seek out Epiphany coaching?
Oh my gosh. You should seek us out because one, we are a faith-based organization. We don't believe that we are in the rooms and working with the amazing people we work with by accident. We do believe that we have a purpose in the community, And because we have an expertise of working with the community across different disciplines, Cicely and I together have about 50 plus years of experience in behavioral health and human services. We've worked at the highest level of behavioral health, human services, and substance use, and we're about community. Again, we trust and believe that whatever financial blessings, however, Epiphany and One Village is supposed to grow, that it's going to divinely grow because we're walking in our purpose. So I think if you're looking for honest, that are going to cater to the needs of your business, your program, that are going to serve the community right along with you, then we are the people to come to. We are the ladies that are going to come do the workshops, that are going to stay after and ask the questions, that we're going to, again, be fair in how we price. We're going to be fair in how we charge for our services, but we're also going to give back. We're going to come to your outreach events. We're going to be there for Sunday morning service. We're going to be with you because we believe it takes a village to change a lot of the social, a lot of the economic challenges that our community is facing. So we're not about we just coming in as the experts, but we believe in partnership. We believe in family. We believe in being a village together.
That's good. So, I ended up in the class because I reached out at the right time.
Mhm.
There were others that are a part of us that it wasn't the right time for them. But things happen the way that they're supposed to happen. So whether you do another one out and they attend, I'll probably be there, or you decide to come to us again, I'll probably be there because I learned a lot, but I somehow it just tells me I just scratched the surface. So um, it takes years to become an expert at anything. So I just want to get on that track to work toward that. So
Absolutely. Well,
I
I am coming. First Lady Jackie already put the bug in my ear that over the spring, summer, you guys are getting a grant writing workshop. So I'm
yeah.
coming. But again, you can always reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can to support you.
Yeah, well, we'll be there when you come to VLF, but if you have something early and I can get my partners to
I'll
come early
definitely
because
let you
then they'll get the benefit of having it on there and understanding it better. Like I said, a lot of my thought processes and cloudiness, I won't say fears, questions and cloudiness kind of I felt better after that. But again, um, like anything. I learned through muscle memory. I learned by doing. Reading, as much as I used to read, I'm on Audible now, but as much as I used to read, I still find out that I learn better when I'm actually doing it. So, and then we got a chance to do that in class too. So, yeah, I don't be surprised if I darken your doorway a couple times, even
always
before
welcome.
after.
Always, always welcome. Always a pleasure with my BLF family.
Well, I appreciate you for coming on tonight. You will be hearing from us, and I hope we'll be hearing from you as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
This is Anthony Spencer for the Voice Spotlight. Myself and Lisa Parker, thank you for attending this spotlight, and we'll see you soon.